Hey there guys, Ishak from Shack Tech here, and welcome to a brand new series. In this series I'm going to take you from the beginnings of photography, cinematography, what you need, some of the basic technical terms and techniques that you can use to get the most out of your photography and cinematography. This series is great for people who are looking to get into this area, or people who are already maybe a little bit experienced and just want a refresher on what to look for. In today's episode I'm going to be showing you, trying to help you pick out the right camera for you and help you make that decision. So stay tuned and let's get into the video. So you're looking for a new camera, or maybe you want to begin your photography journey and you want something to go and shoot and you want to go out there and shoot, but there's so many different options out there at the moment, and I know it can be quite confusing and jumbling trying to figure out which product to get. So to help you out, I'll narrow it down to a couple of tick boxes I want you to tick off before choosing your camera. Firstly, do you know what primarily you're going to shoot? Are you going to be shooting landscapes? Are you going to be shooting portraits? Are you going to be shooting action sports? You're going to be underwater? You're going to be up in the sky? Make sure you tick that box. Try and figure out what you're going to be shooting beforehand. Secondly, what is your budget? Is your budget, I don't know, below $500? Is it under $100? Is your budget all the way up? There is no budget, there is no upper limit, you can get whatever you want. Make sure you get that noted down as well. What is your give and take in that regard? And lastly, what is your proficiency with cameras? What is your, have you used the camera previously? Have you used any of the manual features? It doesn't mean necessarily the manual mode, but playing around with various settings and whatnot already. Yeah, so pretty much what's your beginner level? Have you never touched the camera, all the way to how I'm a pro, I am amazing photographer, award-winning or something like that. Alright, awesome. So hopefully you've ticked those boxes off both either mentally or written them down somewhere, and you have a general idea of what you're going to be using this camera for. So usually what the general for years bygone have for people trying to start out in photography and cinematography has been DSLRs. You've probably seen them all around. You've probably seen professionals use this, reporters all the way to professional photographers in sports, nature photography. You'll see something similar to this. DSLRs have quite a chunky form factor. This is actually quite a significantly smaller one. These can get quite a lot bigger. And some of the really cool benefits of having a DSLR is just the plethora of features you usually get in this package. You get the access to, of course, all the manual options. You're able to access to customize it quite a lot. Customize your image as much as you want. You can, since DSLRs, you're able to attach your own lenses and glasses of your choosing. Just note that depending on the initial brand of body you go for, it can determine the amount of lenses you can attach. Well, I say well, you can usually attach all lenses to a camera via an adapter of some sort, but usually the lenses built for that brand are usually the best for that. But yeah, allowing you to attach different lenses to get different looks, to depth of field and just photo quality is a really cool benefit to having a DSLR. Another really awesome benefit of DSLRs is that you can usually get some really good video quality out of them. Nowadays DSLRs allow for 4K at very high frame rates, and so you get some really awesome quality out of them. Initially my YouTube videos were shot on this DSLR. It's really awesome. You get a variety of inputs as well, outputs. You can connect your mic to it, you can have a monitor coming out of it. You can, the sky is the limit on these. Pricing wise, they can range all the way from entry-level DSLRs. Remember, this is brand new, looking at about $800 all the way up to 800 NZD, all the way up to about tens of thousands of dollars, depending on what you're looking for. But again, the entry-level camera, entry-level new DSLRs these days usually have everything you need. At least minimum 1080p recording, good. It's usually not a full-frame sensor, but usually has good photo quality and usually has all the features you need out the bat. But another awesome thing is they're built like tanks, so the pre-owned market is a really awesome place as well if you want to get a good bargain on a DSLR. There's heaps of these that are running out and about. But a negative I see is these are, again, as I mentioned, the form factor is quite large and they can be quite chunky, and they can get quite heavy once you add some good pieces of glass onto it. So if you're someone that's going on a lot of walks, hikes, you're an outdoors person, you need to go on the move fast, these can be quite a bit of a hassle to carry around. Can take a lot of space in your bag, can be relatively heavy, lugging it around all around, so that's something to keep in mind. But maybe the next camera would be more suited for you, as not long ago this wasn't something that was in reach of beginners due to its price point, but now has become a lot more affordable. And so the next camera would be mirrorless. Now, also to mention, throughout this video I'll be showing you some photos I've taken of the exact cameras I'm actually showing you here, just to show you what the photo quality or video quality looks like, so it'll help you with your decision. But coming back to mirrorless cameras have, as you can see, a much smaller form factor compared to our DSLR, its older brother. Mirrorless cameras are still relatively new, but it is quite mainstream now to use mirrorless. This video is actually being shot on a mirrorless camera. Mirrorless cameras pretty much have the exact same features that DSLRs can offer, and sometimes a bit more. Mirrorless cameras can have amazing video quality. You can shoot out of the small body in 4K at very high frame rates. Mirrorless cameras, as well as DSLR cameras as well, can allow you to mount lenses on it, and usually you can mount the same lenses that you can mount onto the DSLR camera, of course depending on your brand and the camera model. So it allows you to customize it again with all the same features that a DSLR has, with the lenses and all the settings and whatnot. Mirrorless cameras have also come down in price as of recent, and look like to still be coming down recently to that mainstream uptake. Yeah, and one of the awesome benefits of the mirrorless camera is you get all the same things that a DSLR camera has, but in a much smaller form factor. Now, this is quite a controversial thing, but in most cases you can't see that much of a difference between a DSLR and a mirrorless camera, especially for your everyday user. Prices for mirrorless cameras, though, to get a really decent one with a decent lens, is around $800 to $1,000 on the secondary market, so you may get a bargain there as well. But this mirrorless cameras is actually something that I would recommend to most users that are wanting to get a decent camera, their first camera and whatnot to start with, just cause it's just so easy to pick up. It will encourage you to use it more, to take it with you in more places. You can just put this in your bag, even sometimes put it in a pocket with some of the form factors out there at the moment, and yet you're not losing the quality or any features that you would have in a DSLR, which is awesome to have. And the next category would be something that's quite there's quite a variety of them there, but this is quite a popular area as well. You'll notice when you're browsing various camera marketplaces and shops, even showrooms, will have a vintage camera section. Vintage cameras are, again, an awesome category of cameras. These are cameras I would recommend for people that want to really learn the manual settings of photography. Usually in a vintage camera you have to set all your aperture settings, your f-stops, your exposure settings. You got to learn how to do all that to try and get that nice shot. Also, most vintage cameras are going to be film cameras, so this is both positive or negative. Sometimes you get some really awesome looks and you get a hard copy of all your photos, which is awesome to have. But that also comes with a cost, of course, of developing and buying film for your camera. It also can be a little bit of a hassle for people that want their photos straight away. Let's say you're predominantly your social media, you want this to post on Instagram straight away. You got to wait until your photos are processed, of course, which could be a downside. And these cameras, as much as I say they're great for learning manual settings, in overall learning it can be a little bit frustrating that you have to wait for your photos to get developed. And this is not just something for vintage, it's just film cameras in general. Being at your first camera can be a little bit of a hit or miss because you don't see your photo until it's developed. But yeah, it could be a little bit of a shorting process. My view on vintage cameras is, if you're really keen on learning the manual settings of a camera, awesome, go for maybe an old vintage DSLR. an old vintage DSLR from a reputable seller. But in most cases, I would say most photographers should not have. This should be something that comes secondary to something that after you've bought a mirrorless or a DSLR camera, and you want to delve more further and have something a bit more. And you want to try something a little different. Don't recommend it usually as a first-time camera. And yeah, the price points within the vintage space can be, you can get some awesome deals, usually from sub 300. You can get a nice DSLR, vintage DSLR and whatnot, all the way to rare pieces, which could be, again, tens of thousands of dollars. So it's just depending on what you're looking for in terms of what the camera is able to provide, and maybe the collectability is also a big factor in the vintage space. So you got to balance all that up. Next category would be the point and shoot category. So this is quite a chunky point and shoot camera, or my old Sony DSC-H7. This is, believe it or not, a point and shoot. It is as thick, of course, kind of similar to my DSLR camera, but you don't have a detachable lens. Point and shoots can get really small as well. This is quite a large example of a point and shoot, but you can get substantially smaller. Smaller versions of this. One of the really cool things about point and shoots is they will do what their name says, is they'll always be ready to shoot when you want to. Just switch it on and you're able to shoot straight away. Usually you have a little less features than a mirrorless and a DSLR camera when it comes to it, and sometimes limited image quality. A lot of point and shooters nowadays can do 4K quality, but sometimes since the sensor in these cameras are so much smaller, the quality diminishes substantially. Again, but these cameras will do the job for photography. If you purely just need, if you just want to have a camera to just shoot straight out the box, you do have the access to manual settings as well into this, but it's more via software instead of a mechanical stance. For example, the zoom on this camera at a certain point will become a crop on the image itself, and sometimes you lose quality and whatnot. But again, I recommend this for someone that just wants to pick a camera out of the box, shoot straight away. Yeah, you can get these usually at a price range sub $500. You can get a really decent point and shoot camera out there. Notable mentions would be Canon's G7X series to Sony's RX100 series, I believe it is. So I'll correct myself here on this. But yeah, you can get some really awesome shoot. But I feel like if you are really going into this category, if your budget is just stopping you from going into a really nice photography area, this might be a bit more of a better option. Your smartphone. Nowadays, a lot of people have a newer smartphone with a very decent camera. If it's Android, iPhone, I'm not going to get into that debate. But usually, yeah, the newer smartphones within the past maybe 4 years have some really awesome camera capabilities. You know, some of the pictures that you get out of a camera is amazing. Like a lot of stuff on my Instagram feed are from my iPhone. You're able to take some awesome photos with it. This is something that you always carry around with you. It's in your pocket, so whenever you want to capture a moment, this is always with you. You're going on hikes and walks, this is something you can easily carry with you. Doesn't add much weight, doesn't take any space in your bag. You can also take some awesome video. A lot of our smartphones can take 4K, can do a lot of slow motion video and whatnot. And so people, I know of creators that use purely a smartphone setup to make their videos with, which is awesome. But yeah, keep it in mind, this is a really good step as well to figure out if you are really going to be into photography and you're willing to do the investment into something like a mirrorless or DSLR camera. Maybe set about a week or a month of, I'm going to go out of my way to take photos with my phone, to try and take the photos that I think I want to take with DSLR mirrorless cameras, and see if I actually enjoy the process of taking photos, of going out and about, and to be creative with the photography and whatnot. But yeah, this, again, the price point for these phones anywhere between $500 to maybe $3,000 with some of the smartphones these days. But you don't need a $3,000 smartphone for a decent camera out there right now. For example, you can get a secondhand iPhone from like the XS series. This is an XS. You can get the Samsung series, have some really good ones. The Google phones have some really good cameras. There's so many options in the mobile space as well. And you can get two birds with one stone. You get a mobile phone plus a camera, so it's a pretty awesome package. Lastly, Next we have the action camera category. So for example, GoPro would be one of the most popular cameras in this category. This is the latest model, the 9 Black. This, unless you're specifically an action sport photographer or videographer, someone that needs to go in the water quite a bit, and your budget isn't as much, these will be for you. But otherwise, I wouldn't recommend this for someone that just wants their first camera and something to go and shoot like all sorts of landscapes, be able to shoot landscapes, portraits, all sorts of different subjects. GoPros are awesome as a secondary camera to get a different perspective attached to your subject. Take it to places you don't want to take your mirrorless or DSLR camera, but the photo quality out of a GoPro is okay. You get some really cool perspectives with that ultra wide lens, kind of like a fisheye look. You get awesome video quality out of it, but downside is low light video and photography out of a GoPro. It can be quite hazy and quite noisy compared to a DSLR mirrorless camera. Even your phone camera can sometimes outperform that of a GoPro. But GoPros are designed again for that action sport, for that taking it out in the water, throwing it around and about, being rugged and tough. If your use case isn't that, I don't recommend this being your main camera, especially for the price that it's at around over $500 to get the latest model. Of course, you can get second-hand models, but again, I feel like you could do better with another kind of camera if you want more of a general, if you want to cover a more general area of photography. Lastly is the more unique and specific functional cameras out there. For example, this is my retro 3D film camera. This camera takes 3D film photos, which sounds really weird, but I'll show you some examples up here. It's a really fun camera. There's so many different cameras. There's a 360 camera for the 360 videos, or you can get some really awesome panoramas with it. Those cameras are really awesome, but again, I wouldn't name as your first camera or your main camera. I feel they have very specific use cases, and the novelty can wear off quite quickly if that is your main camera, and you'll end up missing out on taking shots of scenarios that you actually wanted to take, such as maybe a landscape or a portrait shot or whatnot. But yeah, these are really fun if you already have a DSLR, your mirrorless camera, and just you want to spice up the photos you have and add some new effects and just to have a little bit more fun with them. But anyways, yeah, that really concludes all the categories of cameras we had. We had a variety there. Hopefully what kind of camera to look for, what would be best for you if you want to continue your photography journey, and what could help going forward with your photography journey. But anyways, that really concludes this first episode of the series. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions, any ideas for future episodes in this series. I'll be adding heaps more content onto this series. I'm hoping to carry this on going forward. Photography and cinematography is a passion of mine, so it's something that I'd like to share with you guys as well. But anyways, stay safe. Hope you all have a great rest of the day. And as always, eyeball one, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.